What if everything you thought you knew about Meghan Markle was a lie? What if the picture-perfect life, the fairy tale wedding, the glamorous headlines were all carefully curated illusions, and the truth, the real truth, was far darker, far more shocking, and far more personal than anyone ever imagined? That's exactly what Thomas Markle, Meghan's estranged father, has revealed in his bombshell revelations. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. In a candid and emotional interview, he claimed something that has the potential to shake the very foundation of the royal family's modern narrative. "She told me she'd leave Harry one day," he said. A simple sentence, yet it carries a weight of betrayal, secrecy, and a world of questions. Think about that for a moment. Imagine confiding your deepest fears to your own father, someone you trust implicitly, and revealing a plan, one that could alter a marriage, upend a dynasty, and send shockwaves through millions of adoring fans worldwide. Thomas's disclosure isn't just gossip. It's a peek behind the heavily guarded gates of Windsor, a glimpse into the private struggles of a couple that the world has obsessed over for years. And the timing of this revelation couldn't be more explosive. Public interest in the royals is at an all-time high. Every interview, every gesture, every seemingly minor misstep is scrutinized, dissected, and broadcast across the globe. But for Thomas Markle, the story is personal. It's about family, betrayal, and the painful gap between public persona and private reality. From the very beginning, Meghan's story has been one of contrasts. A commoner, an actress, a woman thrust into one of the most scrutinized families in history. On one side, she appeared to be living a dream, a Cinderella narrative come to life. On the other, sources close to the royal family have hinted at friction, tension, and an undercurrent of unease that the public simply didn't see. Now, according to Thomas, there was an awareness, an almost premeditated plan, on Meghan's part, something she confided in him, quietly, away from cameras, away from advisors, away from the relentless paparazzi. Thomas has never been shy about his relationship with Meghan. Their estrangement has been public, painful, and riddled with accusations from both sides. For years, the media portrayed him as bitter, perhaps even petty, as he criticized his daughter's choices and the relentless pressures of royal life. Yet beneath the public critiques, there lies a more intimate story. A story of a father who loved his daughter, who watched her rise to global fame, and who grappled with the emotional consequences of her decisions. When he reveals that Meghan told him she might leave Harry, it's not just a statement. It's a window into a level of insight that no one else possesses, and it raises 1,000 questions. What did she really mean? Was it fear, strategy, or something deeper? How did Harry respond to this knowledge, if he even knew? The implications are staggering. Consider the royal family as a complex chessboard, where every move is calculated, every gesture is scrutinized, and every relationship is under the microscope. To claim that Meghan confided in her father about leaving Harry is to suggest that there were private strategies, private doubts, and private plans that the world never saw. It reframes everything we've witnessed. The public displays of affection, the charity appearances, the carefully curated interviews, the whirlwind tours across the globe. Could it be that behind the smiles and the headlines, there was a private narrative, one that only Thomas Markle witnessed? And if so, what does that mean for Harry, for their marriage, and for the perception of Meghan as a modern royal icon? Let's pause for a second. Picture the scene in your mind. A private room, perhaps a quiet corner in a hotel or a secluded spot in Los Angeles. Thomas Markle, a man who had once walked his daughter down the aisle, now facing her in a moment of candid vulnerability. She speaks softly, but the words cut deeper than any headline could. She tells him that leaving Harry could happen one day. The shock, the pain, the mixture of disbelief and sorrow, it's palpable. And while the world has obsessed over Meghan's public persona, it's moments like these that reveal the tension between her private thoughts and the persona she projected to millions. The timing of Thomas's revelations also raises critical questions. Why now? Why after years of estrangement, of public disputes, of media scrutiny? Perhaps it's a combination of frustration, heartbreak, and the realization that the public narrative is incomplete. Perhaps Thomas feels a moral obligation to set the record straight. or at least to share what he knows. And when he does, it forces us to reconsider everything we've thought about Meghan and Harry's relationship, the dynamics within the royal family, and the immense pressures that come with living life under the relentless gaze of the public eye. But there's more. Thomas's disclosures don't exist in isolation. They intersect with media manipulation, tabloid sensationalism, and the curated narratives that the royals have carefully maintained for decades. Think about it. The same outlets that reported Meghan's every move also shaped the public perception of her and Harry's marriage. Yet for every headline, there is an untold story, a nuance, a private conversation that never reached the public. Thomas's account provides that missing layer. A glimpse behind the curtains, where the real drama unfolded away from cameras and scripts. And this is where it gets even more intriguing. Thomas isn't just exposing a single confession. He's hinting at patterns, behaviors, and decisions that paint a more complex picture. Decisions made under pressure, conversations held in private, moments of doubt and strategy that the world will never fully witness. Each revelation invites us to question assumptions, to scrutinize the timeline, and to analyze the motivations of everyone involved, from Meghan herself to the advisors and family members orbiting the couple's life. It's a tangled web, and Thomas claims to have seen the threads that most people only imagine. Now, here's the real shocker. According to Thomas, Meghan's words to him were not merely hypothetical. They were a reflection of her mindset at a specific time, revealing intentions and fears that could dramatically alter our understanding of the royal saga. And while critics may dismiss Thomas as biased, the emotional depth of his account, the pain, the frustration, the longing, cannot be ignored. This isn't just commentary, it's personal testimony from someone intimately connected to the unfolding story. And in a world where perception is reality, this kind of insight is explosive. So why does this matter now? Why should you care? Because it changes the way we view the narrative we've been fed for years. It challenges the assumptions we make about love, loyalty, and ambition within one of the most scrutinized families in the world. It forces us to consider the human cost of fame, the private decisions behind public appearances, and the complex dynamics that can shape or shatter relationships under intense pressure. And it sets the stage for revelations that go far beyond a single statement, hinting at a series of events and choices that may rewrite the public perception of Meghan, Harry, and the royal family as a whole. Why did Thomas Markle and Meghan Markle drift apart in the first place? What caused a rift that would become one of the most publicized and painful estrangements in recent royal history? It's not a story of simple miscommunication. It's a story layered with heartbreak, misunderstanding, and choices that neither parent nor daughter fully anticipated. The truth, Thomas reveals, is messy, emotional, and far more human than headlines ever allowed us to see. Imagine being Thomas, a man who raised his daughter, watched her grow, supported her through school, family upheaval, and even her early acting career. He was proud, he was involved, he cared. Yet, as Meghan's life began to shift toward Hollywood, toward fame, toward a future intertwined with royalty, he found himself increasingly on the outside. The bond that should have been unbreakable was slowly fraying. And the public? The world only saw snippets, a wedding, a few comments to the press, a stage photo here or there. They didn't see the emotional toll, the private conversations that never made it to the tabloids, the moments of hope and disappointment that built over decades. Thomas claims that some of the earliest cracks appeared even before Meghan met Harry. He remembers her teenage years, the long conversations about ambition, identity, and independence. He remembers warning her about trusting people too quickly, about guarding her privacy. But ambition has a way of creating distance. As Meghan's career soared, she became increasingly surrounded by advisors, managers, and people who had their own agendas. Thomas began to feel excluded. Not just physically, but emotionally. Decisions were being made without him, conversations about her future happening behind closed doors. And the man who had once been her confidant started to feel like an outsider. You might ask yourself, how could a father-daughter relationship reach this level of estrangement? Aren't these bonds supposed to withstand fame, distance, and life's pressures? Normally, yes. But fame has a way of distorting relationships. Every choice Meghan made was magnified. Every action was interpreted, analyzed, and broadcast. And Thomas, no matter how well-intentioned, found his opinions dismissed or criticized publicly. Every attempt to reach out, to offer guidance, seemed to fall flat, replaced by public statements and media narratives that painted him as bitter, irrelevant, or even vindictive. And that's where the tension began to build. Thomas recalls moments of hope, emails, phone calls, gestures that suggested reconciliation, but they were always fleeting. Each time, it felt like Meghan was being pulled further into a world that he couldn't reach. And then came the royal connection. When Harry entered the picture, the stakes escalated. Suddenly, Thomas was not just a father worried about his daughter. He was the father of a soon-to-be duchess facing immense scrutiny, an outsider peering in at a family that operated on protocols, traditions, and invisible boundaries. It's easy to look at Thomas's perspective and dismiss it as jealousy or resentment. But there's another layer here: pain. Imagine knowing someone you love deeply is making life-altering decisions, confiding in friends and advisors, even sharing moments with the press, but never with you. Imagine the isolation, the heartbreak, and the sense of helplessness. Thomas didn't just lose access to Meghan's life. He lost the connection that defined his relationship with his daughter for decades. And every public headline, every televised moment, was a reminder of that distance. What made matters worse, Thomas claims, was the intrusion of outside forces. Advisors, publicists, and even certain members of the royal inner circle, according to him, were shaping Meghan's narrative in ways that conflicted with family realities. Conversations he thought were private ended up misrepresented or leaked. Advice he offered, intended to be protective, was interpreted as critical or manipulative. And the more he tried to bridge the gap, the more distant Meghan became. Yet Thomas insists that despite the estrangement, he never stopped caring. Every interview, every public statement, was driven by a mix of heartbreak and hope. He wanted the world to understand the man behind the headlines, a father who loved his daughter, who recognized her ambition, who understood the pressures of fame, and yet who had witnessed moments of vulnerability and doubt that no one else had. And then, there was the revelation, the confession, that would redefine their relationship in ways no one could predict. She told me she'd leave Harry one day. Those words were delivered privately, in a moment Thomas describes as both shocking and deeply emotional. But even before we dissect the implications of that confession, it's crucial to understand the context in which it occurred. Thomas had watched Meghan navigate Hollywood, the tabloids, and the royal family with remarkable poise. He had seen her handle scrutiny, criticism, and controversy. And yet, beneath the public persona, he sensed uncertainty, doubt, and a desire for autonomy. That's why her words carried such weight. They weren't just casual remarks. They were a revelation of mindset, a glimpse into private reasoning, and a foreshadowing of future decisions that no one could have predicted. Thomas recalls feeling a mix of disbelief and heartbreak. How could his daughter, the same girl he had guided and protected, speak of leaving the man she had publicly vowed to love and support? Was it fear of suffocation, a desire for independence, or a strategic move? Thomas admits he struggled to reconcile the confident, composed Meghan the public adored with the private Meghan who spoke candidly about doubts and potential endings. And the more he reflected, the more he realized that the estrangement between them had been exacerbated not just by physical distance, but by the gap between public image and private reality. What adds another layer of complexity is the timing. Thomas claims this confession happened long before certain public events, the engagement announcement, the wedding, and even the global tours. This means that while the world celebrated, while media painted a perfect love story, Meghan had already expressed concerns and possibilities that would later become critical to understanding her decisions. Imagine being a father and knowing this. Imagine holding a secret that could shift public perception, that could explain a pattern of behavior, and yet having to watch events unfold on television, powerless to intervene. And it wasn't just the confession itself that was shocking. It was the way it highlighted the nature of their fractured relationship. Thomas realized that no matter what he said or did, there were layers of separation, advisors, media, personal choices, that prevented a genuine connection. Each interaction carried tension, each attempt at guidance met with subtle resistance or dismissal. The rift had become a complex web, woven from love, disappointment, misunderstanding, and the pressures of extraordinary circumstances.